A long-awaited presidential election in Libya was supposed to take place on Friday, but the country's parliament has declared the vote would be impossible to hold. Authorities suggested a one-month delay, but did not set a new date or provide any plan to avoid a return to conflict. The vote was intended to mark a fresh start, to cap off a decade of fighting in the wake of the 2011 revolt that killed dictator Muammar Gaddafi. For more on this story, let's bring in our senior foreign affairs editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, a lot of disappointment inside and outside of Libya following this decision. Tell us a little bit more about the reaction.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. The international community has invested pretty heavily over the last few months. The United Nations in particular, with lots of support from France, from Germany, from Italy, the United States, Russia as well. But it's effectively come to nothing. So there will be disappointment that this opportunity, as it was seen, to end the instability that's been part of Libya since Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown in 2011, could finally come to an end. There will be disappointment too, I think, amongst ordinary Libyans, many of whom had registered to vote and had seen this as an opportunity to try to end the instability that has been part of the country these last 10 years. But the whole process, the electoral process, has been bedeviled by disagreement about the candidates, about the electoral law, accusations of corruption. It's been a very rancorous process. So not much surprise, I would suggest, on the part of most Libyans that this is not going to happen as it was meant to happen on Friday, the 24th of December. The question is, going forward, what is going to happen next? The Electoral Commission has called on the House of Representatives, which is in the east of the country, to approve a date, probably January the 24th. But it's by no means certain that the House of Representatives will do that. And in the meantime, there's a question about who governs the country, because the interim government that has been doing so for the last few months loses its mandate on Friday, the 24th of December, when the elections were meant to take place. So there's a big question mark over what legitimacy it will have going forward as well. So lots of confusion and possible instability.
Now, Rob, there had been speculation that this decision was coming for weeks. There's been speculations. But what were the disputes that actually came down to that prevented this election from happening?
Well, the biggest one is about the candidates, who should be allowed to stand and who should take the decision about whether they should be allowed to stand. The High National Election Commission felt that that was its prerogative, but feels it's been undermined by the courts. The big issue, as I suggested, it's been over three candidates in particular. General Khalifa Haftar, who's the chief of the National Liberation Army, the strongman of eastern Libya, who launched an assault on Tripoli a couple of years ago and failed to take it, and is accused by many of war crimes. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, who's the son of Muammar Gaddafi, the dictator who lost power, was forced from power and was killed in 2011, who's a very divisive character, popular with many, but extremely unpopular with just as many. And then finally, Abdul Hamid Dbeiba, who is the interim prime minister, who committed himself not to stand for prime minister when he took on the job of interim prime minister, but has nevertheless decided to throw his candidacy into the hat. The Electoral Commission said none of those three could stand, but was overruled by the courts. It felt its authority was undermined as a consequence. And we've got this sort of confusion and instability that we're trying to deal with now, which has led, effectively, along with a few other things like accusations of corruption and the instability caused by the multiple militias that still undermine the stability of the country. But this particular one about who should be able to stand has proved very difficult to resolve.